welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. We are back again for episode number 159. I'm your host tonight. My name is Shorty, and I have just one bean on the line with me in the form of Cracker. How's it going, mate?
Good, thanks, buddy. How are you?
Pretty good. This is becoming a habit, I think.
It feels like it's a bit of a regular thing.
Shorty and Cracker show.
Right.
The two main hosts.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all we need, apparently.
It is, yeah. Nah, it's all good. Chewy's having a very busy time at work at the moment. I think we mentioned on the previous podcast that he was in the midst of opening up the new heart hospital in Clayton or whatever it is, and I think that saga is still going on, as seems to be the case with most government projects. Things run behind and not to schedule, and there's hiccups and all that sort of stuff. So,
look, I'm okay with him delaying it as long as people's hearts keep beating. So, let's get that bit right.
Yes,
and then we'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry all you people out there with heart problems. You're just going to have to wait an extra couple of weeks.
Just suck it up. You'll be fine. just practice CPR on yourself.
That's exactly how it works.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So, unfortunately, that is actually going to mean, one of the things we'll be talking about tonight is the regional championships that's coming up in Melbourne this weekend. But, yeah, Chewy's going to basically miss all of it, and I think you are too, unfortunately, but we'll get into that. But we do have some other things to talk about tonight, but before we get into that, let's shout out our awesome sponsors. So, go for it, Cracker.
Love to. Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. You've heard us talk about them a million times, but we're not going to stop because they're the best. Best in the game. They are a Facebook auction page. They have hundreds of cards up for auction every night. They also have the Win It Now lists, which are just so tempting, man. Like, I find myself scrolling through these things going, that's a really good price. And then I'm like, yeah, there's a comment on it already. They're always gone. So you got to be fast on those things because the prices are bananas good. But nightly auctions and then premium auctions over the weekends. And, dedicated accountant. Dedicated auctioneer is the word
I'm sure he does that too.
Yeah, I'm sure he has a dedicated accountant as well because Pat goes through all the cards. But gets them out super fast, and you can always get the tokens when you win. You tell them what you want, so you can pick up some of the sweet Beans Envy tokens. But when you do win an auction, let them know the Beans sent you.
Very good. Yeah, I'm not big on the auctions myself because I don't have the time or whatever, and it doesn't suit me to be there on there
sitting
trying to bid and get
them,
the bargains and snap them up and all that sort of stuff. But the Win It Now stuff I really like.
Yeah, they're great.
And the way I've found works really good for me is I'll pull up the post and I just scroll through until I see a card that I like the look of, and then I just check to see does it say one comment?
Yep, that's exactly what I've done.
One comment, it's like, I'll check the price on that, and then that looks good, sweet. I'll comment on that and snap that one up. But yeah, it is extremely frustrating when you're like, I've been looking for a fancy printing of that card or whatever, and then it's like, it's already got a comment. Dang it.
So did everybody else.
Yep. That's the way it goes. But we'll be seeing Pat this weekend, actually.
That'd be great.
He's going to be down in Melbourne, so hopefully we'll get to catch up a little bit and, go out for a meal and all that sort of stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. All right, so I guess the main thing, we talked about this sort of before we started recording. Like, we looked at the last podcast we recorded and was like, what did we talk about then? We spoke about Pioneer and Standard, and well, that's what we're talking about again tonight, Pioneer and Standard. But
sure
we're on the other side of what we spoke about on the previous one. In the last podcast, we were talking about how there's a Pro Tour coming up, and we were just a little bit early on the podcast to have the metagame breakdowns, and then we got deck lists once the event actually started. But yeah, we didn't quite make it for the metagame breakdown, but it was kind of what we expected, I think. Yeah,
it really was. Yeah, just a bunch of all of the top decks that we covered off. Just as representatives, you thought, Rakdos and Mono Green and Lotus Field and a few other things. But yeah, kind of all those top tier decks. Like we expected, there were tweaks and changes, but there was no seismic shift in the format.
There was a deck that was fairly highly represented. It was in the top 10 list of deck representations, which we briefly mentioned on the previous podcast. And you said, I have to mention this one because Shorty's told me to.
Correct.
Which deck was that, Cracker?
That was Creativity.
Oh, and what was the deck that won the whole Pro Tour?
I don't know. Is it creativity? It turns out when you put it in the hands of two Hall of Famers, you get two copies in the top 8. Who would have thought that that's what happens with these things?
Substantially better players than me.
Reed Duke, man, took it down with creativity, and those were some matches.
Oh, yeah. So did you get to watch much of the coverage for the weekend?
I caught smatterings here and there while it was live, and then I went back and watched most of the top 8. I thought they did a really good job of the whole thing. But yeah, the top 8 was really, really good. What about yourself?
Yeah, I watched and listened to a fair bit. So when I was able to, I would have it running on my phone and be, sort of watching it as I was eating breakfast and whatever else I was doing. But then, had things to do during the day, so I would just, put the AirPods in the ears and have the audio running and keep the phone in the pocket while I'm out mowing the lawn or whatever, and go and keep listening to the coverage, because turns out when the coverage is good and the commentary is good, you don't actually need to see what's going on. I mean, in paper coverage, you can't really see what's going on all the time anyway, so it kind of doesn't really matter.
Wide angle shots and no, for sure, really good play-by-play coverage. Actually, it's amazing. If you know the cards, how easily you can build the board state in your mind. Like the whole playing chess on the ceiling thing. You can, you can play Magic, just by looking at the virtual playmat. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I got a fair bit of both days of the Swiss rounds. Didn't watch any of the draft. Couldn't be bothered with that. And it was also super early for us. But got a fair bit of that, and then managed to get through most of the top 8. As well on the Monday, sort of while I was driving, having it playing through my car stereo, not watching,
just listening. People, it's okay.
Not watching. No, not.
Shorty didn't crash his car.
No, but the coverage was good, and oh man, the difference of watching a paper tournament where you can see the people and watch them, hands on their heads as they think through tough decisions and how people, lay out their cards, and just the playing and the interaction between the players and that sort of stuff. Far out. That makes such a big difference. It was so good to actually watch paper coverage, and the coverage was really good. Yeah. They had a few small improvements to the stream. It seemed like they were streaming on a bit of a delay and recording the matches, kind of like what we did for the Invitational last year.
Yeah.
Have the players playing live, but record their matches, so then you could jump straight into game 2s and game 3s of backup matches and all that sort of stuff. And it just cut out the downtime so much, because that was always a big issue.
Yeah, they would have we'll be back in 30 minutes. And it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
like
30
there was just
minutes.
None of that. There was no dead air.
The longest I saw was 2 minutes. We'll be back in 2 minutes. And then it might have been back to the news desk or whatever it's called with Maria and whoever else. And then it would be like, yep, okay, we're going to have a chat about some stuff. And then it's like, all right, we're ready to go. And it was not, we're going down to our feature match and we're going to sit here and watch people shuffle up for 10 minutes. It's, we're getting down to the feature match and we're ready to go for game 1. And it's just bang, straight into it. And then that match would end and it's like, all right, we're jumping into game 2 of this match and straight into it. Even sideboarding, they cut out all the sideboarding, cut out all the, the shuffling between matches, all that sort of thing. It was, really good. One weird thing that they did, I don't know if you noticed this, Cracker, but they changed the orientation of the playmats.
I did.
I've heard a few people comment on that.
No, let me rephrase that. I heard people talking about it, but I didn't actually notice it when I was watching.
Yeah, I didn't realize initially.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I was like, what is different here? And then I realized, hang on, normally the playmats are there's one on the left and one on the right. Yep. Yeah. And you can, sort of partly see the players. And it is a little bit awkward because sometimes you are looking at their crutch sitting on the chair. But you get to see their hands and you get to see them, as they actually lay the spells out and things like that. But the way they had it this time was rotated the other way. A playmat at the top, playmat at the bottom. So you were seeing one person's playmat in the correct orientation, but the cropping, I guess, of the camera view meant that you missed out on their hand, and a lot of players would be playing their spells behind their land. It's it's like, I'm going to cast this, and you just kind of put it down on the table in front of you, and you couldn't see that on camera. So I think they'll learn from that. I think that's something that they can certainly improve on in the future. But overall, it was really good to watch.
it's interesting because I understand what you're saying about like not seeing all the spells being cast, but in terms of legibility of the board state, I think it's probably easier to grok overall because it's a state that I'm so used to seeing. I'm not used to seeing two players with their cards at 90 degrees from me. I'm used to seeing one set of cards oriented correctly and another set of cards
upside down.
Yeah, upside down. But like I'm used to that, and it also means that I think with the way that screens work, if they crop it properly, then you get the full width. And if people are playing to like with the paper streams we've done, we've set it up so that we know exactly where the edges of the mat are in relation to the frame of the camera, and you can play right to that, and you can actually get like the full 16:9 kind of ratio, whatever it is. No, is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you can. Like, I think partly it would be player training, which is hard to do, but I think that once they get that better, it'll actually become a more full and easy to view experience than the previous, at 90 degrees to the players, because you've got to shoot effectively vertically at that point to try and get the full depth of field, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like by going sideways in the view it is working better with the aspect ratio, but it did mean there was a lot of wasted space on the sides because the players are sort of used to playing like in a compact manner.
Sure.
They've got this giant playmat in front of them, and so, you're seeing their life pad and their deck box and their tokens and all this sort of stuff that you wouldn't normally see. Normally on camera, they're always pretty quick to make sure those things are off camera, but in that setup, they didn't. So, like you said, like for our streams, like Chris got us made custom size playmats to be, okay, the playmat is the size that we want on camera, and so we just align the camera so it works exactly with that playmat, and then we know you can fill up this entire playmat. Anything that's on this playmat is going to be on camera. And so, it's just whether they get new playmats and they clearly mark out anything within this box is on camera and anything outside is not, and make sure you're playing everything within that space, then... Yeah,
but that's really easy to represent as well. Like you can literally just custom print them easy as, and it's not like they need 100. They need that's right. 4 or something like that for the whole. Yeah. So anyway, but look, that aside, production was amazing. I know that you and I saw some of the. We were talking about, like, I wonder what the setup is like that they're running, and we were joking about the software they're using and stuff. And then someone tweeted some behind-the-scenes pictures of the actual production area. My goodness. It's like a full-on TV studio.
It is literally a production area. We have, correct. Like, me sitting at a PC
we have Shorty pushing buttons, as we lovingly say.
Yeah.
And then these guys had a full production crew. And... It showed, man. Like, I felt that this time. Yep.
Only thing that was weird was, for some reason, the booth where they had the commentators was really poorly lit. I have no idea why, but I mean, you're not seeing them on their faces on camera for much of it. But
it's lighting. Lighting in Magic is hard. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
People are just an unknown quantity. No way.
Yeah. No, but actually, out on the tables was quite good, and there actually wasn't much in the way of issues with glare. They did quite a good
they did a really good job.
Yep. Yeah. So, like, the next PT is not for 3 months. I'm assuming 3 to 4 months. So they got plenty of time to sort those things out. But it was just really good to see, because we didn't know what we were going to get when Wizards canned all their coverage. It was like, okay, well, that's it. That's the end of coverage. And then they came back and said, we're going to cover PTs and Worlds. That's it.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, are we going to get full coverage? Are you going to put more money into it because it's only 4 events? Or are you just going to go, we'll just put out whatever. We'll have Shorty pushing buttons and that's good enough. But no, they went all out. So, really good to see. Good job, Wizards. And, can't wait for the next one, because it was fun to watch. And we had some amazing games, as you said, Cracker. Just really good Magic.
Yeah. So if you're only going to sit down and watch a very small amount of this, just... watch round 1 of the top 8 between Reed Duke and Nathan Stoyer, because that was some of the best Magic I have seen in such a long time from both players. Nathan Stoyer is the current world champion.
Reigning world champ.
Right, and Reed Duke, like we said, this is actually his first ever PT win, but Hall of Famer, multiple GP winner, multiple top 8s. I think he's got like a couple of PT seconds as well. Like, dude is an absolute monster, always has been, and just played out of his mind in that matchup. It was unreal how good they were.
Yeah. Well, the other thing they went back to is the top 8 matches are best of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So they play the first 2 games pre-sideboard, and then the next 3 are post-sideboard. So it sort of takes out that variance a little bit, where you don't want that one random game to cost you where you had to mull to 4 or 5 or something like that. So yeah, it was a very, very good match to watch. But yeah.
It also means that you're likely to get the play and draw for pre-board games for both players, which can make a big difference as well. So not guaranteed, obviously, but it's likely to happen that way.
Yep. So what else did we see in the top 8? So we know we've got Reed Duke on Is It Creativity. What else have we got?
We have got some Rakdos midrange from Shota Yasuka, another name we're very used to seeing.
Yep.
Enigmatic Fires with Derek Davis. Nathan Stoyer, who I said is on Lotusfield Combo, as was Chris Thurber. Takumi Madasura on Monowhite Humans. Benton Madsden on Selesnya Aura. And as I said, Gabe Nassif also on Creativity along with Reed Duke. So they're both the CFB Ultra Pro testing team and have worked together for a long time. And that was the deck, kind of the team deck that they landed on. So that's why both of those guys were there. But kind of a good spread. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, two Creativity, 2 Lotusfield, so 6 different deck in the top 8 is kind of what you want. And when you and I spoke about Pioneer before, like on the previous podcast, we said Pioneer really feels like old Modern, like Modern prior to Modern Horizons coming and ruining the format. Like there's like 50 decks you can play, and you can find, random decks like Is It Creativity and do really well with them, or Enigmatic Fires, like spicy lists, but just come with those and do really well. So the Is It Creativity list, I saw an interview, I think, with Martin User, who was on that team as well and playing that, and they were sort of quizzing, why did your team end up playing this list? And he basically said, how Is It Phoenix is like a really good deck. You're playing all these blue and red spells, and you cantripping and doing all that sort of stuff, and then you just put 2 or maybe 3 flying hasty 3/2s on the battlefield, and you might win the game from there. And like and it's like, well, this deck's the same as that, but you just win. You just do what you do, and then you just put out a 30-30 trampler with haste, and you kill your opponent. So it's just like cutting out all the garbage that you were going through and hoping that you find your phoenixes, and you just win. And it's like, yep. I would definitely agree with that. The other big thing with the Creativity list is post-sideboard. So the list, the list is basically the same as what I played at the previous Sydney Regional Championships in the side events and all that sort of stuff there. We've spoken about the list before, but a sideboard plan is also pretty similar to what I was playing. But you basically, post-sideboard, you're turning into just an Is It control list. You're bringing in 3 Shark Typhoons and some Hull Breakers and, a couple of extra counter spells or a couple of removal spells, and mostly you're siding out the combo, or you're siding out parts of the combo or some of it and that sort of thing. But what we saw on camera was, you win game 1 by just comboing out, and then game 2, it's like, all right, well, now, what are you going to do? Are you going to side in your hate for my combo, or are you going to side in hate for my, my control-ish deck, and I'm just going to grind this game out? And then if it goes to a game 3, it's like, all right, well, you saw that in game 2 I sided out the combo and I went to Hullbreaker Horrors, so now I'm going to, I've got that option to flip it back and side back in the combo. And I think there was actually a match between Reed Duke and Gabe Nassif. There was a mirror match, and Gabe Nassif was expecting Reed to be staying on the Hullbreaker plan post-sideboard, and he didn't. He went back to the combo and he just comboed him out. So
that was in the Swiss. That wasn't in the top 8.
I think that was actually a win-in for top 8, because the other thing they did for this PT, which they didn't do previously, but they've done for the Mythic Championships and all those different arena events, is once you hit 12 wins, you are locked for top 8. You no longer have to play out the remainder of your matches. So I'm pretty sure it was a match where Reed and Gab Nassif were both on 11 wins, and so it was whoever wins that is straight into the top 8. I quite like that change that they've made because it means you don't have all the awkward IDs at the end and people scooping to get their friends in and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
it seems like a good system for sure.
Keeps the competitive integrity or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that. It actually makes it interesting. It makes the games. It makes them all worth something all the way up until you're queued, and then you just don't have to play anymore. So it's good because then every match that you still see still matters. People aren't like, I know I'm dead on breakers, that kind of stuff. Like you get away from all that for the most part. There's always some, but yeah.
So yeah, the other spicy list in the top 8, the enigmatic fires list. What is going on there?
We did talk about the fires. They're just trying to sacrifice enchantments to fetch out creatures. It's a bit of a weird sort of, how do you describe it?
It's a toolboxy creature deck. Like if you look at the creature list, it's basically all one-offs. Yeah.
So it is an 80 card deck, and yeah, it is basically, like you said, it's a toolbox kind of thing. So you've got like Agent of Treachery is like one of your big things. There's a new Elish Norm, but there's like a Tolsimir and a Kenrith and Cavaliers and Titans. Like there's all sorts of weird stuff. Unsurprisingly, there's 4 Fables because they're playing red, so you just slam 4 Fables. Fires of Invention, which we've seen dominate in Standard for a long time. To, cast all your other spells cheaper, and then you can do your cool Yorion trick. But yeah, the namesake of the deck is Enigmatic Incarnation, which is an enchantment that lets you sacrifice another enchantment in your end step, and if you do, you search your library for a creature card with mana value +1, and then you put it onto the battlefield. So it's like a slow pod, kind of. I don't know how else to describe it. It's strange, but you sacrifice enchantments to go and find creatures. So you're playing like there's 32 enchantments, which is heaps, and only 16 creatures. So really trying to, churn things out and then just work your way up through your value chain and just kind of grind people out with it.
Yeah, you're turning all your small, cheap enchantments. You've got enchantments all the way up to curve 1s, 2s, 3s, that sort of thing. You're turning them into the toolboxy creatures that you need for whatever's going on in the current board state. The deck leans really heavily on Leyline Binding. It's playing so many triomes, a whole bunch of different ones, so it's not hard for it to be paying 1 mana for Leyline Bindings, and then you can turn whatever you Leyline Binding into a 7 mana. So you've got your Titan of Industry and your Agent of Treachery, so you can turn, you can use your removal.
Gross. Just like, I'm going to Leyline Binding your thing, and then in the end step, I'm going to sacrifice my Leyline Binding. You get your thing back, and then I Agent of Treachery it, and that's mine forever.
Yes. Yeah, and then you Yorion, and you blink your Agent of Treachery.
Yeah, and there's like Glasspool Mimics as well to copy your things. So yeah, lots of different things you can get up to.
Yeah, very cool deck. I think it's probably one where you need to put a fair bit of time into it to really sort of know what to... You need to remember what the cards are in your deck so you know what you can go and get.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just go, I'll just sack this one and then I'll go and figure out what I want to get. It's like, no. You need to have the plan before you get to your end step of, okay, I'm going to sack this 2 mana thing. I'm going to go and get a Glasspool Mimic because that's a 3 mana. I can put that into play and copy my Agent of Treachery and steal something else and, know all those little lines that you can do. So, yeah, very cool deck. I think J Mudd was playing something along these lines in a few of our events over the last couple of years, so a bit of a fan of that. The other one that was a bit out of left field in the top 8 was Benton Madsen in Green, White or Selesnya Auras. So,
do you mean that he was out of place, or that the deck was?
Bit of a story with him. What was the go with him?
He qualified on his phone. He qualified through Arena and
playing on his phone.
Just crushed his way through, and played on his phone and won. Actually, there was a really good match I watched between him and Nassif, and it was hilarious because they're like talking. He's literally like, "Oh, hang on, I just want to," and he's talking through like, "All right, so if you do this,"
he was really vocal about what he was doing.
He was chatting like the whole time, and he was like sliding around blockers and like working out all this stuff, and it was really interesting. And Nassif was just kind of, stoic. He wasn't obviously saying anything because he's been there a million times before, but it was definitely interesting to see like the difference in approach there from a guy who's played in, probably 50 Pro Tours as opposed to a dude who's like played very few paper events before. So, well done. He did really well. But this deck is sweet. We saw, was it Plunks played this at Sydney?
Yeah,
or something very similar to this.
Yeah, like it's got Skrelv in it now, which is obviously a new addition, which makes a big difference. Just being able to give you a creature hexproof and sort of keep it alive, or be able to get it through. The second part of the text on it is it can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So, suiting up your Glade Cover Scout with a bunch of auras, and then effectively giving it protection from whatever color the blockers are, and just punch through for that damage. So worked really well. I got to see the deck on camera, quite a few times. I believe that Benton went undefeated on day one. I think they were the only 8-0 player, and they had an interview with him, and he was like, I didn't expect to win a match. They're like, how did you qualify on your phone? It's like, he was playing, whatever the path is on Arena, but he was doing it on his phone and qualified and expected to just come to the PT and just lose every match. And he's like, I'm 8-0, and then made it into the final match of the PT.
He came second. What a legend.
Pretty nuts. But very cool deck. We did mention this as a potential list when we spoke about Pioneer the last time, but very cool to see. I don't have the meta breakdown for how well represented the list was, but it had a very good win rate.
It did,
throughout the event.
It was actually third overall in win rate at 63.2%. Because I've got the numbers, thanks, Frank Carsten.
Yes, Frank Carsten, Johnny on the spot with the numbers as always. So.
Yep, Mr. Mathematics.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, like we were saying, that the spicy lists that you can come up with in a format like Pioneer can do really well. So so speaking of the win rates, there was a big surprise on the weekend. We expected. We expected Rakdos and Mono Green and that sort of stuff to do fairly well or be fairly well represented, but that's not what we saw on the weekend.
Well, they were well represented.
Yeah.
They just weren't very good.
So what was the top performing deck?
The top performing was actually Abzan Greasefang.
Right.
At 23 and 11 overall. So it was 67.6% win rate, which is actually kind of nutty.
Yeah,
that's a super, super high win rate. I don't know how much you count Orzhov Auras, which is at second because it went 6 and 3. So that player obviously did very pretty badly in draft. But then Selesnya Auras was next at 63%. Omnath to Light at 61. Abzan Auras at 60. So auras are definitely a thing, and that's cool, man. Because we were talking about Orzhov Auras was like one of the first meta decks when Pioneer first came out, and it's sweet to see that it's now, 3 years later, still a thing you can do. We talked about Spirits and how that just didn't show up. It just wasn't a thing. Yep, 60% win rate. Low representation in terms of, total matches played, but really high win rates for all sorts of crazy things. There's, Mono Black mid-range Storm Herald combo. People went deep. But some of the decks that we thought would do better than they did, or in terms of representation, was Mono Green Devotion, 46.6%, and Rakdos Midrange, 46.4%. So in terms of total matches played, Rakdos Midrange had the most, but just
it was the highest metagame share, so that
kind of
makes sense. But
it did okay against creativity.
Yeah,
but it's kind of a dog to a lot of other things.
Yeah, well, 46% is... That's not where you want to be with your top two decks, but it just goes to show that people expected those decks to be the top decks, which they were, and had valid plans for how to beat those decks, and so they did. They did exactly what they wanted, and you come with that slightly off-kilter deck that the Rakdos and Mono Green players weren't expecting you to play, and they've got a good sideboard plan against you, but you don't have a good sideboard plan against them, and you just get crushed. So it's kind of what happens. But Greasefang was a big surprise to me because that had just dropped right off massively, just completely disappeared. And I guess people just didn't respect it. Didn't bring any sort of graveyard hate, didn't bring the three damage removal spells to shoot down the Greasefang before you get the Parhelion back into play, and just crushed it. And I don't have the results in front of me, but I did hear on another podcast this week that it did really well this past weekend as well, like the week after the PT, in a few, standard challenges and those sorts of things. So who knows? Maybe Greasefang's back and got to start thinking about that again.
I just don't think it went away. I think it's one of those decks that people just got bored of. Like, that's just one of the things that can happen, right? Is just because a deck isn't performing doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's not being played quite often.
Yeah, yep. I mean, the thing that I'm the most annoyed about out of this PT is, I've really enjoyed playing the creativity list. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun to play in Sydney,
deck, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a pet deck. It's like no one's playing this deck other than me and a few other random people that show up to events for them. So I can play this and have a bit of fun. And now, not only did it do really well, it won the whole tournament. And so, if I'm intending on playing it like in the 5K that's on Sunday at the Melbourne Regional Championships, everyone's going to be going, you just watched the PT and you just picked up the deck that won the PT. It's like, no, this is my deck. This is my pet deck.
That's it.
And they're probably all going to know how to play against it because they've seen it being played on coverage and know the sideboard plans and all that sort of stuff. It's like, man, I was so primed and ready to win that 5K.
I do remember when you showed us and it was like, yeah, I'm playing this. And we're like, you're getting a what? A Xenagos and a World Spot? All right, Shorty. All right, mate. Like, that's pretty funny. Like, I get what you're doing here, but like, is it good? And then, it clearly was, but yeah, it's pretty hilarious that I've been on this deck for months, guys. You can't.
Yep.
Anyway.
I'm not just a bandwagoner. Yep. But,
so this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. So, regional championships. So this is the main path to the PT, I guess. We spoke about it the last time.
It's the most direct path, I think, is probably the...
Yeah, it's probably the most accessible for people in our state, whatever, like, as in like point of life and ability to go and play tournaments and all that sort of thing, where it's, you don't need to be playing Magic all the time. You can just show up, like I'm showing up tomorrow and just playing in last chance qualifiers with the hope that I qualify and then get into the main event and then maybe get onto the PT from there. But yeah, it's probably the most direct path, I imagine, straight onto the PT. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know how many players are qualified for the main event. Probably won't know till Saturday. But quite a few Beans community members have qualified. Some of them qualified from the Sydney event last time we were there. Some have been qualifying through the... whatever they're called, RCQs. Yeah, RCQs, Regional Championship Qualifiers that you do at your stores and that sort of thing. And, main event on Saturday. So, Friday, tomorrow, we're recording this on Thursday. Friday is last chance qualifiers, so I'll be grinding those all day, so that'll be standard. Then, hopefully playing in the main event on Saturday. If not, there's a modern event on, so I'll be playing that. And then, Sunday is top 8 of the Regional Championships, if you're in that. Otherwise, there's a Pioneer 5K, so... I will be jamming creativity most likely on Sunday, but my intention is to hopefully be playing a fair bit of standard this weekend. So we thought we'd have another quick look at standard as well, just to sort of see where it's gone since the last time we played. But have you got any tips for people like going to the event? Obviously, you were there at Sydney. You were there every day. You're not going to be there this time, unfortunately.
I'm going to be there Saturday.
For the day, not there for the whole thing. But
I won't be there for the whole thing. I guess come prepared. So we had some people talking in the Discord asking questions about deck lists and things. Yeah, for most of the events, you will need, certainly for the LCQs and for the main event and things, you'll need to have deck lists. So if you know what it is, print them out, bring a bunch of copies, be ready to have those, just give to a judge. It saves you a bunch of time. Otherwise, you'll be doing what I did and sit down and open the deck box and realize you've got the wrong deck. And make sure you bring the right deck. Check before you get in your car that it's in your bag is the most important thing, right? Bring the right
I've already packed for tomorrow. I've already printed out my deck list. I've already packed. I've even got water bottle and snacks and everything all in my bag ready to go.
Yep, all that sort of stuff. Pad, pen, make sure that you've got enough to, maintain a proper game of Magic. You don't want to be fumbling for tokens. Make sure you've got those. Dice, all that kind of stuff. Just, it's the paraphernalia that goes along with the game that sometimes can make it more difficult. And because you're trying to focus all your efforts on doing well, don't cause yourself additional stress by asking to borrow this or have I got this or, like make it easy on yourself mentally so that you can focus on the game and just know that my deck box has only got the cards I need. Don't have random extra stuff in there because if you get deck checked and you've got some other sleeved cards that are from something else, it can get awkward, like just be really clean with what you're bringing and, start like that. What other tips are there, Shorty? Shuffle your opponent's deck. No one's going to think anything of it. It's just the polite thing to do. Expect people to do it to you as well. Don't be offended that they don't trust you shuffling. Call a judge. Judges are your friends. I don't know.
Yeah, you aren't playing at competitive REL, so you do need to, like you said, Cracker, maintain the board state properly and both players need to track life correctly and all that. So if the judges get called and they need to backtrack stuff, they need to be able to look at your life pad and see, okay, we've gone from 18 to 17 to 15 and sort of work out what's actually happened, all that sort of thing. So make sure you've got all that and you're not that person that's going, oh, have you got a pen? Have you got a piece of paper? And all that sort of stuff. So be prepared. If it's been a while since you've played a paper tournament, I would be like getting you the deck tonight and making sure it's all sleeved properly, your sleeves all look good, and then just spend some time shuffling because if you haven't shuffled a deck for a while, it can be quite an experience that might end up with your cards all over the place. Yeah. But it's just little things like if you're used to playing, on Arena and that sort of stuff, things can be pretty snappy. When you search your library, it's pretty snappy. When you're looking at cards, it does everything for you, and you need to remember that you've got to do all your triggers and you've got to make sure you're following all those things properly. But don't spend 10 minutes. You search your library for a card and then you spend 10 minutes reshuffling your deck and then giving it to your opponent, and your opponent spends 5 minutes shuffling it, all that sort of thing. You're just wasting a bunch of time. So just be prepared to. Efficient. That's it, exactly. Give your deck a quick shuffle, give it to your opponent, and go, here, cut my deck or shuffle it or whatever, and just continue moving on with the game, because the clock is a real thing, and you will run out of time, and it is not the same as Arena where both players have the same equal amount of time. So if you're taking up all the time, you may get your opponent going, can you hurry up, or calling a judge on you saying, hey, my opponent's playing really slow, and vice versa. If you're playing against someone who is taking a lot of time to make every little decision, you may want to call a judge and say, hey, look, my opponent's playing quite slow. Can you, just sort of watch them? Because running out of time is not good for anybody. You will end up with a draw.
Yeah, and draws are the actual worst thing that you can have in a tournament.
Yes. Especially in the... Well, you can't really have a draw in the LCQs.
You can't in the LCQ.
No,
correct.
Yes. So, the LCQs, just if you've never played them before, they are 4 rounds, and it's single elimination. So you sign up, they put you in pods of 8, and was it 16? Might have been 16, actually. Yeah, 16 for 4 rounds.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just single elimination. So you win your first round, you're going to get... I think you've got to win 2 rounds before you start getting prize tickets, but win your first round and you keep going through, and then as soon as you get knocked out, you can just go and sign up for the next one if you're so inclined. Yeah, and then if you win, if you go 4-0, you get the qualification for the next day. Piece of advice, the LCQs are like $25 each, I think, but you can pay a $100 all-day pass, which means you can enter as many LCQs as you want. So I played in 5 the last time in Sydney, so I, got my extra one for free. You also get a playmat, you get promos, all that sort of thing. But yeah, if you're intending on grinding for the day, then that's the most value for money. And also, if you qualify and you've paid for the $100 all-day pass, that covers your entry fee for the regional championships, which is about $100 itself. I think it's like $95 or something like that. So yeah, if you're intending on grinding, that's your best path and your best option, and give that a crack.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd say is just communication. Be really clear with your opponent. I know we kind of touched on that, but you kind of can't over-announce what's going on, just to make sure that everything is well known by both opponents, to prevent people trying to angle shoot or anything like that and just be misunderstood. You just want to be super clear with everything you're doing, announce every trigger. Like it might feel like it's overkill because you're used to Arena, but it's actually just really crucial to play the game properly.
Yeah, if you go and watch, like, Reed Duke does an amazing job of it. Yeah, go back and watch some of his coverage from the PT, and you'll just hear him saying, play a land, I'm going to cast this, and then I'm going to, trigger this, and I'm going to do this, and just announces every little thing.
And announces, like, moving to combat and stuff like that, like, literally just passing through the phases, because people will, and make sure you know the if you don't know the phases, it's probably a bit late now. But there's some stuff like that. I'm sure
a deep dive right now into the intricate phases of the.
So the combat phase has 7 different steps in it, and when we're playing Nagila CEDH, we use.
We don't do that too much. Yeah,
so we could talk about what decks we're seeing in standard, though.
Yeah. So we did touch on it on the previous podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really seen much change since then, but we can have a bit of a look at the list. So it's, as we said the previous time, a whole bunch of mid-range.
Yeah.
is what we're seeing in standard. Have you been playing any standard, Greg? I know you haven't played any league matches.
Listen, I've played a little bit, actually. I have. I've been messing around with that is it sort of tokens list that Chewy, that we sort of all brewed up together, and it's been a lot of fun, man. Like, triple iconoclast draws are pretty nutty.
Oh, yeah.
But the deck has got some real play to it. So I have been jamming, not a lot, but I've been playing a bit and just starting to pay more attention to what's going on, because the format seems like it's kind of shaping up to be interesting. Definitely a lot of mid-range, but there's still outliers. Like there's some challenge lists I was just looking through, and like there's a full-on mono red list. There's a full-on mono blue tempo list. Like, it's not all just, Grixis mid-range or whatever. They're not all kind of Sheldred decks anymore. And they're not all like mono white mid-range either. So a lot of different stuff kind of floating around to prey on this. And this is something we've talked about a million times, is that once your metagame gets set and you know kind of what the median is, then you start looking to the extremes. You start going, what's the smallest thing I can do? How do I get under these decks? I've got Swift Spear. I've got all the Simeon thing. Like, there's all these, like, what hasty, the Phoenix chicks, like, what can I do there? Or like, how do I go bigger? What's the control shell look like? And I think we're going to start seeing that more and more now, which is really cool, because it's that kind of rock, paper, scissors format that you really want to see in standard.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a target, and so you can find the ways to exploit whatever they're trying to do. And
correct.
Yeah, it generally, when we're in a mid-range format like this, sometimes we've seen in the past mid-range formats, and there is just nothing better to be doing than this mid-range deck. Teamer Energy is a very good example of it.
Yeah.
The Mardu vehicles that we saw, a few years before that, it's like, you can do other things, but you just shouldn't be doing those other things. These are just the best decks.
Yeah, like Simic Food or the Krasis decks and things like that, which were just like, there was no bigger deck. Like, you couldn't go over the top of what those things were doing. Or, there was the, what was the enchantment that untapped all your lands?
Yeah.
Reclamation.
Wilderness Reclamation.
Yeah, Wilderness Reclamation plus Expansion Explosion. Like, those things were kind of broken. They got banned. So clearly they were broken. But yeah, we're certainly not in that at the moment. And when it becomes a soup like this, then as we get more tools, we can explore more options, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. So I think, like, if you ask most people what the top deck is at the moment, most people would say Grixis mid-range. It is generally the most represented list at most of the, challenges and things that are getting played at the moment. And it is just a very strong deck. I stopped into Games Portal earlier this week, I think, or last week, I don't know, whenever that was, and saw Ethan Map there, and he was, we were talking about, what are you going to play on the weekend, and he hadn't decided, but we, spoke about Grixis midrange, and it was like, it's just not going to be a bad option. It was kind of like the red-black from Pioneer, that sort of thing. It is just a really good deck. All its cards just have so much text on them and have so much value built into them that you just kind of, you can't go wrong. You've got removal, you've got access to counter spells, you've got access to various forms of card advantage, you've got Sheoldreds and Invoke Despairs and all that sort of stuff. So it is just a very good deck. I've seen and heard people are kind of moving the Grixis deck into two different directions. So there's this traditional Invoke Despair Sheoldred list, and I've heard and seen of people splashing into the Gix's, whatever the saga is that reanimates something.
Cruelty
and
Gix.
Yes, that's the one. And just throwing in Atraxas.
Yep.
Just because. And
well, you can discard them to Fable, man.
Exactly, yeah. And you've got blood tokens, all that sort of stuff. You've got ways to discard it. And the theory there is, you've got your Grixis mid-range deck as your target. Well, generally in a mid-range war, you just want to be the bigger mid-range deck. We've spoken about this in the past when we spoke about archetypes and all that sort of thing. You want to be the bigger mid-range deck and go over the top of what they're doing. And so that's what people are starting to do with that. It's like, okay, well, if you're playing Grixis, well, I'm playing Grixis with Atraxa, and I'm going over the top of what you're doing. So that, you've got the same with mono-white. We've got mono-white aggressive stuff with small aggressive white creatures, that sort of thing, but then that's moved more into mono-white mid-range with Wandering Emperors and Eternal Wanderers and all that sort of stuff, and they're going bigger and bigger. And so that then opens the door for mono-red. We've seen a resurgence of mono-red in the last couple of weeks. It's starting to, win events and do really well because the mid-range lists are just going so big that they can now actually get in underneath them. And that's really cool. And then you've got over-the-top control, and then you've got funky decks like what I'm playing that are just way over the top.
Oh, yeah.
Just going, way over the top of everything that anyone's trying to do. This is the biggest thing you could do. So, Standard actually looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm actually really kind of interested in jamming a bunch. So, league matches will be happening. I will be jamming. It'll probably all happen. I said last week that it'll be next week, but next week it'll actually be next week. I will, because I'm running out of time. So I got to get these games in, but I'm excited. I've got a deck that I want to play. So I think that's like the biggest thing for me is finding something that actually grabs my attention. And I think it's the same for you, right? Like you've got
definitely.
I need to find something that is competitive enough that I feel like I can, win matches. Because, like, winning is not my primary driving factor. I like to have fun. I like to have good, interesting games. And when there's a deck that speaks to me like that. But, like, mid-range soup tends to miss for me. And I think you're the same. But what is this I go over everything that you guys can do, get wrecked Atraxa? Talk to me about what you're playing, Shorty. What have we got sleeved up for tomorrow?
I have Jeskai Mind Splice Apparatus with Alchemist's Gambit taking all the turns with Galvanic Iterations.
Okay, so for the kind folks at home who have no idea what a Mind Slicer's Gambit is, please regale us with the text of that card.
Yeah, so I'll give you the backstory first. So, as you said, we've been brewing, the Beans brewed a little bit of some Izzet stuff, with the Third Path Iconoclast and that sort of thing, and try to find some sort of Izzet list that we were happy with. And
Dancer and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I tried a few different things in there, and I just couldn't get it to work. Chewy had some reasonable success with his version. I think you've done okay with your version. Then I saw in our Discord, Jedi's Walker actually posted, I posted up my list of what I've been playing. Jedi's Walker posted a list that he'd been playing that was similar to what I was doing, but also had Galvanic Iteration and Alchemist Gambit, and was just, taking a few extra turns. And I started sort of looking in that line and brewing a little bit and found a few other people's lists and that sort of thing, and ended up brewing up an Izzet Mind Splice Apparatus take extra turns deck. Mind Splice Apparatus is a 4-mana artifact that has flash. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you put an oil counter on it, and then your instants and sorceries cost 1 less for each oil counter. So the plan is you play it at the end of your opponent's turn when you've got 4 lands, untap, put an oil counter on it, straight away you're getting a discount on your spells, and then every turn that is ticking up and your spells are getting cheaper and cheaper. So you just want to be casting the biggest spells that you can, preferably X spells, because it just scales with your Mind Splices, and they stack. If you've got 2 Mind Splice Apparatus and they've both got 2 counters, well, that's 4 mana off of your spells that you're getting. So ran an Izzet list of that for a while and was doing pretty well, and then started to come across some Jeskai versions. And Ali Eldrazi, well-known streamer, had been playing a Jeskai version, had a bit of a look at his list, and then sort of incorporated that into mine, and that really turned the corner on the list. So yeah, what you're trying to do, you're playing mostly Izzet stuff with a couple of white cards splashed in there, but you're controlling the board a little bit. You've got 4 Syncopates, you've got Burn Down the Houses, you've got Brotherhood's Ends, that sort of thing, to keep the board clear and sort of get rid of those early aggressive creatures. And then, you're wanting to cast a Mind Splice Apparatus, ideally on turn 4, and then just kind of go from there. So you're running big score. Once you get enough counters on your Mind Splice Apparatus, your big score only costs you 1 mana. And it's 1 mana, make 2 treasures, draw 2 cards. Like, just amazing.
Seems good.
you're playing Union of the Third Path, which is one of the white cards. It's 2 and a white. Draw a card. You gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand. So you can often be just casting that for a single white, and you're drawing a card and then gaining 7 life. Like, just keeps you alive. Silver Scrutiny is nuts in this deck. Blue, and X, draw X cards. If X is 3 or less, you can cast it with Flash. But so many times I've drawn like 15 cards off of a Silver Scrutiny and just paid like 2 or 3 mana sort of thing for it. So you do that, guarantee you one of the cards you draw off of that is going to be a Union of the Third Path. You just gain 15 life, draw another card. Like, it's just crazy. Yeah, you've got Galvanic Iterations to copy your spells, and Alchemist Gambit, which is the extra turn spell that we've got in Standard at the moment. It's 1 red, take an extra turn, but it's got the cleave thing. So the standard text is you take an extra turn, but then you lose the game at the beginning of that turn's end step. But if you cleave it, which costs 4 red, you take out the text of losing the game. So it's just take an extra turn. And when you've got your Mind Splice apparatus, you're basically just paying blue, red to take an extra turn, copy it with Galvanic Iteration that you're flashing back as well, that sort of thing. You can very easily chain up 4 or 5 turns. And the way that we were winning previously was with really just tokens off of Burn Down the House, like Burn Down the House Devils, or we were playing like the Mirex, which can pump out some tokens, that sort of thing. It was really slow, and the white has given us access to White Sun's Twilight, which is X white for a sorcery. You gain X life, and then you create X 1/1 mites with Toxic that can't block. But if X is 5 or more, you destroy all other creatures. So it's not hard to be casting this for 5 very easily and wipe the board, and I've got 5 poison dudes. And then you just win with poison. It's like Paulson, he's super proud. You're winning with poison all the time.
You are actually infecting dudes.
You're infecting people, yeah. But so many times it's just like, I'm going to queue up a bunch of extra turns. I'm going to untap. I'm going to wipe the board. I'm going to make 10 mites. I'm going to take my next turn and just kill you. And it's fun. It is so much fun. And it's totally got me into Standard. So, that's what I'm playing. I'm going over the top of everyone. I'm probably just going to lose every match, but
no, I don't think so.
It's really fun to play.
I've seen it. I watched one of Ali's videos, and it's powerful, man. Like, you can do some really nutty things, and like you said, like, you just get to play the kind of, it's a combo control deck. Right?
Yep.
Like, you're not...
Which is exactly what I like playing.
I know. We're not playing twin here, but it's like the one... It's a 2-card combo, right? You just control the board with counter spells, removal spells, draw a bunch of stuff, act at instant speed, and then, just turn the corner, win. And, like, a sweeper plus a finisher is such a gross thing to do. It's like Decree... Is it Decree of Justice? No, that was the one that cycled. I always forget what the other one is.
Yeah, there's the other one that I played in the Cube last time we played.
Yeah,
It basically the same thing.
Exactly right.
Yep. Yeah.
But these things
that was
ends
the
game quick, man.
Yep. Going into white and getting that White Sun's Twilight, that makes all the difference. It's your life gain to keep you in the game. It's your board wipe to control the board, and it's your win con by giving you creatures to win the game with. So it's all just in one card. It's fantastic.
Yeah. When we jumped on before the cast, you're like, hang on, I'm just playing a best of 1. Okay. So I've got 5 mites and I've got 2 take extra turn cards in my hand, and they've got 1 blocker. All right, I win. You just like, it took you 2 minutes and you just won the game. You're just like, all right, attack you block one, take a turn, attack you again, you block one, attack you again, and then it's like, all right, it's all over.
Yeah. Good fun. So that's what I'm playing. Chewy's been playing the same deck, so I converted him across. He's been playing the same deck, and I think he's like over 60% win rate with his. I play most of my games on my phone, so I don't actually know what my win rate is. But unfortunately, as we said earlier, Chewy's not going to get to play on the weekend. If you were playing Standard on Friday, Krakow, what would you be doing?
I think that the list you've got is really cool. It's really sweet. So, but I'd probably... There's actually... There's some Delver lists, man, that are... Well, they're not actually Delver. But they're mono blue.
You just can't resist.
I can't get away from it. Either that or, like, there is a thing that we've been playing. It's been a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
You can have some really nutty kind of combo off turns where you just cantrip a bunch and play a bunch of removal spells and, just make a bunch of little dudes and get there. But, there's a lot of fun to be had. But I would do something like that. Just things with islands and counter magic, because it doesn't matter how big a Traxxer is, if it never resolves, who cares?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've had plenty of games where my opponents reanimated an Atraxa 3 times. Like, yep, you've drawn a whole bunch of cards off of that, but I'm also drawing like 15 cards for 2 mana, so I'm fine with what's going on here.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. So I think Chris is playing. Well, I know Chris is playing. I think he's playing Gruul.
Yes.
You've been working with him on a Gruul list.
Yeah, we were both jumping on the other night in Arena, and he messaged me in Arena for like the first time ever. He's like, "You testing?" I'm like, "Yep." Yeah. So we played a few games against each other, and then he had a deck that he was working on. It was really interesting. Just kind of, Chris loves to ramp. Like, green ramp is his thing as much as like blue counterspells is my thing. That's like just what he loves to do, and just going big up to Terranax Rex, and like people just are not expecting that thing to come down, and it's a 8/8 warded trampling infecty behemoth. That and Titan of Industry, so a lot of really good stuff. And I know he'd made some tweaks since I saw that list. He put some Thruns in it, and that had bumped his win rate up and stuff. So yeah, definitely got some game there. And again, just coming at the format from a slightly unexpected kind of angle.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Chris and I will both be there for anyone who's going to be at the event. Chris and I will both be there on Friday. We'll be there all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, you'll be there Saturday. Mm-hmm. I think Chewy's hoping to be there Sunday. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see Stu at all on the weekend. I don't think so at the moment. But, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. There'll be a few beans floating around, and yeah, there's a bunch of people from our community. We were hoping to do some cubes and stuff after the days were done, but I don't know how likely that is to happen, because we don't have a centrally located house near the venue. It makes it hard, and any stores that we were looking at going to stores and playing in stores afterwards, they're all closing early because all the players are not going to be there, or they're all, running stalls at the events and things like that. So, that kind of makes it a bit hard. So we do have an option, but we'll see how we go. But we'll definitely be, Chris and I will be heading out for dinner somewhere on the Friday night, and Saturday night we're going to hit up a nice place in the city and, have a bit of a good dinner for my 40th birthday celebration. So if you are kicking around, I'm 40 next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday. If you are kicking around at the event, it'd be sweet to have you come and have some dinner. But we will need to book a table, so make sure you let us know if you're going to come. I did put an event channel up with some things you can register for just to gauge a bit of interest, but I don't know how many people look at that. Probably not. Pretty much just me. So, but
I did. I registered my interest.
Cool.
I am coming.
Yep.
We're good. But good. Otherwise, Discord is the place to be as far as keeping track. People will put updates in there. If you don't know, you can mute channels in Discord, because sometimes the notifications can get a little carried away. So if you're at work like me tomorrow, I expect there'll be a lot of updates and things like that, because I do want to see what's happening. But yeah, you can mute channels so that they don't spam you all the time. So, but otherwise, make sure you are posting what you're up to and what's going on, because we do care. We do want to know how people are doing.
Yeah, and we do want to meet you. Don't feel nervous, which is just a weird thing to say. Yeah, would be nervous to come and talk to us, but don't feel nervous. Come up and say hello. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, you're already our mates. If you listen to the cast, we're already fans of yours as well. So come say g'day, and there's nothing weird. Just talk magic or whatever.
Absolutely. All right, quick update on the league on the way out the door. So what have we got? 2 weeks left? 2.5 weeks left, I think, in the league. We're about halfway through. Insanity's been playing a ridiculous amount of matches. 27 matches he's managed to rack up already, which is nuts. But
he's a monster.
No surprise, Insanity and Penchair sitting on the top of the ladder with 17 wins each. That's very impressive. So I am not doing so well. I'm down in 24th place with a 1-5 record.
Oof.
That's not so good. But I'm doing better than you are, Cracker, because you have yet to play a match.
That's true. That's true.
Yep.
But we'll see if I can do something about that.
Yeah. But if you do want to get in on the league, you can still join. We actually had Lab Monkey jump back into the league this week.
Yeah.
You know, just posted in the Discord yesterday, hey, can I jump in the league? And the benefit of the system that we're running now is, yep, we can just add you in and that's it. Away you go. You can start playing your matches. So if you think you've missed the boat, you haven't. And if you're hearing this for the first time, you can still get in. Just come and join us in the Discord and get in on the league. So going to be a lot of fun. But yes, Cracker, you do need to start playing some matches, as does Chewy.
I will. I promise.
And Stu.
Yeah, and Stu.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do us for this week, Cracker. So we will be back in another fortnight, hopefully talking about how
You're queued for
either
the
myself
PT?
or Chris have crushed it, and yeah, we're queued for the PT or Worlds, even better. That'd be fantastic. But we'll see. No promises based on track record. It's unlikely to happen. But yeah, either way, we will talk about it when we come back the next time. So usual wrap up on the way out. If you do want to get in on any of those events, the leagues, or just being part of our community, or just knowing what we're up to for this weekend, you need to be in our Discord. There's a link for that, as always, in the show notes. There's also a link for our merch store. If you do want to grab some sweet Magic Beans gear, which I'll be rocking this weekend, you can go there. And the very small amount of money that we get off of the merch just goes straight back into the prize pool for the events that we run. So go and check that out. Speaking of the prize pool, most of it, the vast majority of that comes from Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. So go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au, bid on some stuff, win some stuff, and tell Pat that the Beans sent you so that he continues supporting us so that we can give stuff to you. And there's a link on there for the website, but you can just go to magicbeanscast.com and you'll find all of our YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all the links and all that sort of stuff for all those things. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at PeaceInc, and you are, Cracker?
At JoelHill_.
Very good. So that's it for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.